Café and Networking, the podcast to connect and promote entrepreneurs and business experts. I'm Tom Reaoch, an American known as the King of Networking, connecting people and speaking from my studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today we're going to talk with Rachel Lounds, and she's joining us from Sydney, Australia. Rachel and I recently met on the PodMatch podcast matching platform. Rachel Lounds is a career confidence and mindset coach, helping ambitious women overcome self-doubt and the imposter syndrome. Rachel will guide you to achieve career and personal success. Rachel, for our listeners, what is the imposter syndrome?
Well, imposter syndrome is a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist despite evident success. So I'd like to elaborate on that a little bit. Imposter syndrome at its core is crippling self-doubt and incessant thoughts swelling around in our minds like, I'm not good enough, everyone is smarter than me, I don't deserve to be here, I need to be perfect, or I'm here by mistake and it was all luck. Now, I want to be clear that imposter syndrome isn't something you have, it is something that you feel, and it all starts with these types of thoughts. So it's estimated that 70% of people have felt imposter syndrome at least once in their life. And at any given time, 40% of people are feeling it right now. So that tells you how pervasive it is in successful people. And it's especially felt in industries where performance is a highly important success metric.
Well, that seems to be almost everywhere today, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's really linked with high achievers who believe that their high achievement is down to luck or a mistake and that they'll very soon be discovered. And it's this fear of discovery and a reluctance to accept that their achievement is down to their own skills and merit that creates the feeling of being a fraud or an imposter.
Well, in today's corporations where everything is a KPI, there are indexes for everything. So people are actually measured and they're shown on graphs on the walls. Does that lead to some of this self-doubt?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to perform. And so if you have any sort of self-doubt about your ability to perform or your ability to do anything, then you're going to have a lot of pervasive thoughts in your mind, like, I can't do that, I'm not capable, I'm not good enough, I'm not talented or knowledgeable. So people with imposter syndrome don't believe that they are talented and knowledgeable. And so it stops them from achieving the success that they want and need to achieve.
Now, how do you go about helping these ambitious women become career and personal successes?
Well, okay, so I mean, managing imposter syndrome helps people realize their own talent and dispel crippling self-doubt that holds them back. So I work with people to beat imposter syndrome by tapping into their values and personal success measures. And so reflecting on and changing sabotaging behaviors like perfectionism, like overworking because you don't believe that you're good enough, so you keep working to try and keep up with the people around you and comparing yourself to everybody else. And we're changing those sabotaging behaviors. We start aligning our actions and decisions with our core values so that you can start reaching your career, personal and self-love goals. So by building confidence in the value of experience and knowledge, we start thinking like non-imposters and we get a bit more time back for ourselves.
But is this gender-centric?
No, it's not. So it's a common myth that imposter syndrome is only felt by women. It's not gender, age, race, or geographically exclusive. And the reason this myth exists is because the original study undertaken by two clinical psychologists, Clance and Eames, in 1978, conducted 150 interviews with highly successful women who, despite their earned degrees, high achievement and professional recognition, reported feeling no internal sense of success and considered themselves to be imposters. So from that point, Clance and Eames christened this complex the imposter phenomenon. So I also want to let you know that it's not a disease or a psychological disorder. It is a collection of feelings and thoughts. So you are not broken and you don't need medication to help you fix it. And there are things that you can do to help you overcome that.
No, and as all feelings, I think, sometimes you do need help to understand what those feelings are.
Yes.
Many times we have these feelings and we become confused as what's really happening to ourselves. And I want to say that I've been there because obviously being in environments and in corporate situations where you say, well, I was in a company that was full of engineers, and I wasn't an engineer, and it started out that way. I says, wow, you know, and everybody says, well, again, the first question was, well, you're not an engineer. Well,
Yeah.
no, I've never said that I was an engineer, but maybe I had those feelings and I never knew it.
Oh, that is quite common. I mean, it can strike at any moment, but it is generally associated with starting something new. So starting a new job, or getting a promotion, or even becoming a parent. So particularly when you're starting a new job, you're going in and you've got a whole lot of new things to do and learn, and that's where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's that's when you start thinking, I can't do this, I'm not capable, and those pervasive thoughts are running around in your mind, just swirling around.
And where can our listeners find you? How can they find this help?
So the listeners can find me on my website, theposchologycollective.com. And I work with people to kind of unpack that inner fraud and the self. And you can work with me in one-to-one coaching, or I've got a quiz so that you can find out whether you are an imposter, which you can find on my website too. There's a link there.
Well, from what you say, most of us are imposters.
Well, 70% of people do feel it. And I would actually say that's probably a bit higher than that, to be honest, as a stat.
No, I would think so. And as I said before we started, I really wasn't aware of this syndrome. I'd never seen it placed in that. So I want to thank you for sharing that, not only with me, but for our audience. And I'm sure that they'll be enlightened with all of that.
No worries. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing from some of your people, actually.
Well, our people are in the whole world. And I think, again, since you said it isn't gender and it's not geographic, I'm sure people will want to get in touch. So it is the site, theposchologycollective.com, right?
Yep.
And they can also find you on LinkedIn, where you're also very active. And for our listeners, it's Rachel Lounds, and it's Rachel. And the last name is Lounds. Correct, Rachel?
That is correct.
Well, I want to thank you again for being part, and success.
Thank you so much, Tom. It was really great talking to you today.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone again that more information about Rachel, then it is on LinkedIn, and the site is theposchologycollective.com. And that's POSCHOLOGY collective with 2 L's.com. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus Semi-Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil, and more information on the website focusmi.com. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.